Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be reacting to Luetin's 10 best jobs in the Imperium. Hopefully they're good jobs. We'll see. They're probably awful because everything in 40k is awful. That's the conclusion I've come to, but I love it so much. Couple of quick things. We have a Discord. The link will be in the description. There will also be the link for the original video. Without further ado, though, let's get into it.
While it's undoubtedly true that the world of the dark far future is one filled with horror, immorality and nightmarish perversion, it's also true that while many billions lead lives that are objectively unendurable, there are equally those who are gifted rare positions of privilege, luxury and highly rewarding lives of service. Whilst the Imperium may demand loyalty, it's an unavoidable human trait that has existed forever, that given the opportunity, individuals will always seek the feathers to line their own nests. While some are heavily indoctrinated into the cult of the Imperium and live lives of pure service and abstinence, there are likely significantly more who live lives that are hedonistic, luxurious to excess, boundless freedoms, or how about just sheer raw power. Again, as before, it's worth mentioning that often what I might designate as a job in the Imperium may or may not fall within our understanding of such a thing at this time. Often within the Imperium you're not actually paid, you might simply be assigned a duty through hereditary or just assignment, and you find that your life leads you down a certain path and a certain role to play. So what we might...
How would you like that? Waking up, well, not even waking up, being brought up to be one specific thing. It's almost like the Custodes. They were born, and then, because most of the families of that particular order, they just give them up as children. So it's just like, whatever. They probably already knew it was going to happen. So it's a little, you know, it's a little weird. It's a little like, oh yeah, well, we already knew it was coming. So we just had this kid and now he has to go with them. Or like psychers. Also, because they're like, I know that their families are inbred and they keep that going. And they're always going to be psychers. That family will always have psychers, always be psychers. And then the higher tier psychers get to be royalty. Almost. Kind of.
Might designate as jobs are more roles in society to play, but it's much the same. You're working to stay alive and contribute to the overall structure of human society. As we look at the best jobs today, if you missed out on the worst ones, check the link at the end of this video, and we're covering roles in this video with no constraint, but perhaps we can also look at more standard working class roles that do not include positions of excessive power in another video. And lastly, what would you like me to cover next in a best or worst rundown? Best weapons, worst deaths, best war machines? Tell me in the comments and maybe I can cover that one next. So in no specific order, let's run down the best jobs within the Imperium of Man. Now, it's no surprise that we start with the role of the Inquisitor. There are a few roles less coveted than that of becoming an Inquisitor of the Imperial Inquisition. For many, the simple reasons for this are twofold: freedom and power. Inquisitors, unlike the majority of humans in the Imperium of Man, are free to pursue their own goals and missions within the context of their role, of course, to protect and further the interests of humanity. The Inquisition at its current existent state is a massive organisation in the Imperium. Answerable to no one other than the Emperor and themselves, they reign as terrifying figures to most of the rest of humanity. Take your pick of the three Ordos as well as to which to best participate in. The Ordo Malleus deals with eradicating demons and the servants of chaos, basically hunting the corrupted, and they're also backed militarily by the Grey Knights. Not a bad team to call for backup.
Yeah.
The Ordo Xenos are not purely focused on slaughtering the oddities of the galaxy, they also spend time investigating, cataloguing, exploring if you will, to better understand where and when humanity may want to lay down swathes of purging fire. They may spend decades travelling and recording what they discover, and they often have solid bonds and connections with rogue traders. The Ordo Xenos, similar to the Ordo Malleus with its Grey Knights, gets to call upon the Astartes of the Death Watch, a force formed entirely of veteran Space Marines. Finally, the Ordo Hereticus. Often these Inquisitors are those that people lean toward, choosing them because they are the witch hunters, and rightfully they're feared by the heretics of humanity. They hunt down rogue psychers, mutants of mankind, and those who would speak heresy toward the Imperium and the Emperor. Speaking out of turn, heresy. Spilled my beer? You better know that's some heresy. And as per the previous choice, yeah.
That's true. They can pretty much, so the Inquisitors, with all the power that they hold, they can pretty much say whoever is basically a heretic. You even look at them weird. There you go. You're a heretic. Burn him. Kill him. Be done with him. The amount of power that these guys, they can take over, Space Marine legions. They can requisition their ships. They can take stuff. They can call in exterminatus. They have control of almost every situation. Now, I don't know, in the hierarchy of like primarchs or captains or chapter masters, or how that all falls together, right? If the chapter master has to obey an Inquisitor, or does, because they're pretty much their own entity, does the Custodes have to deal with the Inquisition? Do they have to abide by? Or is it, I think that question of mine was answered, but I don't remember. In one of the, I think it was done in the Custodes video. I'll have to go back and look. If you know, let me know in the comments. And then we'll beat it into my brain. But that's how that works.
Yes, they are backed not only by the Adeptus Astartes, but also the Adeptus Sororitas. That is the all-female militant wing of the Imperial cult's ecclesiarchy.
We have got to get into them. We have got to. Since Voldemort, he had a couple of videos that I wanted to look at, because Voldemort does an amazing job going through and telling stories about, the specific either people and or times, and he just does a fantastic job acting stuff out. He's got a few videos before he got hacked that I wanted to look at, so we'll have to do that real soon, so I really want to know. Can you guys hear my pit bull snoring in the background? Sorry. He's a very loud sleeper.
Able to walk around the worlds of the Imperium indiscriminately killing those who might look at you the wrong way doesn't appeal in and of itself. You also get to be backed up by an entourage of badass bolter-wielding ladies. Inquisition are, as an organisation and individuals, exempt from scrutiny other than by the Emperor himself and, as I say, themselves. Inquisitors can demand whatever they need at any time, be it materials, citizens, manpower, and hardware. In essence, an Inquisitor's power is absolute. They deal out individual death or planetary scale annihilation. The Inquisition is a vast organisation, and it's difficult to really summarise in short order the level of complexity within its own ranks, let alone its operations within the Imperium. The Inquisition is even known to have factional wars within itself from time to time, as it answers only to itself, and so must fight for its philosophies and fanatical points of principle. These rarely will last for any significant length of time, and if they risk spilling out beyond a localised area, they will usually be crushed by a heavy force of Astartes to restore order by any means necessary, at the behest of yet more inquisitional commands.
Now, I don't know a whole lot about her, but I do know she was in my Warhammer deck. And I immediately replaced her with Calgar, because he's superior.
Gives a small sense of how complex and difficult to constrain Inquisitors' power can be, as they individually can wield huge influence in an Imperial system. Why is the role of an Inquisitor one of the best jobs in the Imperium? The answer is the sheer power you hold individually. Now, Imperial Noble was always going to make the cut for the best jobs in the Imperium. They are, as you might expect, the elite civilians of Imperial worlds, and the nobility contain lords and ruling families of major hive cities, planets and star systems. Having power and command over many millions, if not many billions of human lives, you find yourself born into such nobility, then you've already hit the jackpot in terms of potential lives to live. You'll be raised in safety and luxury, disconnected and likely ignorant of the suffering and abhorrent conditions the billions of fellow humans endure below your heavily protected living quarters. A life disconnected from the grim realities known to the majority of individuals within the Imperium, yet it's not a life without risks. Human desire knows no bounds, and murderous ambition and vicious feuds can continue for centuries between families. Many highborn will likely never leave their luxurious palaces, protected from the horrors of the outside world and the citizenry who are best off not knowing what they're missing out on. Highborn citizens of the Imperium are seen, but perhaps only by the nobility itself, as the pinnacle of human bloodlines, representing the greatest and most carefully refined family lineage. As is often the case when it comes to such self-celebrating aristocracy, for the few individuals who are genuinely enlightened or have something positive to contribute, far more of these noble family heirs are self-obsessed, idle and prone to debasing themselves, often living lives that walk a very dangerous line between indulgence and heresy.
Yeah, being a noble in this whole grand scheme of things, since there's always something, everything has to be twisted and evil. The Inquisitors, they're not nice guys. The nobles, definitely not nice people. He just said half the time they're on the verge of being heretics anyway. They're just out for their own. I mean, that's just what they do in this particular universe. Just being out for your own, and, you know, getting to live a life of luxury while just normal people slave away in the hive cities. It's messed up, but it wouldn't be 40k if it wasn't messed up.
Highborn also, among their privileges, are significantly educated about the lives that they live, the power and politics, the general understandings of the Imperium, and how it's best to avoid its significantly dangerous pitfalls. For some highborn, it's a life of ignorance and lavish luxury. For others, their careful education and focused ambition can lead them to become agents of the Inquisition. How much of that is down to loyalty for the Imperium or carefully planned personal ambition is entirely debatable. Being a highborn, though, is not only about wallowing in self-satisfaction. There is work to be done, albeit entirely self-serving. You must protect the interests of the family name, and more importantly, try to better them. It's a never-ending game of carefully planned subterfuge to undermine and steal power from others who need to be taken down a few positions and allow your family a tighter grip on regional power systems. Blackmail, scandals, treachery, and carefully premeditated murder are all day to day. It's a life of dangerous mind games, murder mystery, political power games, and decadent luxury. Despite the dangers, it's without question far preferable to eating slop every day, working to exhaustion, and then dying of some unpleasant industrial contamination.
Yeah.
The Adeptus Custodes. Now, a seemingly endless popular suggestion for best jobs in the Imperium, yet somewhat debatable when you really think about it. Overall, though, I still think it's a good candidate, objectively speaking.
No, I don't know about that. Being one of the Emperor's guardsmen, maybe, but then you still have to stand there for like 100 years. Or you have to go down into the caves and hang out with whatever atrocities are down there. You never, I mean, yeah, they're badass warriors, and they probably are gonna outlive everything, everyone. But at the same time, I feel like it would be a boring job. I know that they're very smart, and they probably learned a lot, and they probably still continue to learn, but it seems like standing there hanging out next to a skeleton on a throne doesn't sound like a great job to me. But, you know, maybe I'm crazy. Let me know if I'm crazy. I don't know.
Why do the Custodes come up so regularly when people think of perfect roles to play?
I think they come up so regularly just because of how cool they are. They're superhuman. They're not sent out to go die like the Space Marines. They get to do whatever it is they want. They have their own autonomy. the only person they listen to is the emperor, and he can't really do anything because he's on a throne. He's just stuck there, unless he sends them visions. So it's kind of weird, but I don't know. I have ADD, so being stuck near some dead guy half dead guy on a throne, just sitting there for like 100 years waiting to be relieved, it doesn't sound good, at least to me.
As part of the Imperium? Well, for one, the honour of serving so close to the Emperor. The Custodes are the personal bodyguard to the Emperor of Man himself, warriors of unmatched capability and whose sole purpose is to counter any potential threat to the Master of Mankind. Back in the days of the Unification Wars and the Great Crusade, the Custodes would follow the Emperor everywhere. Now, as he is interred on the Golden Throne on Holy Terror, they rarely leave the planet, taking a far less active role than they once did in the Imperium. And while their tedious daily lives may seem mind-numbing to some, they have seen renewed life as the Ultramarines Primarch has returned to lead humanity. And so it is that the Custodes' days of confinement to Terra over so many years has come to an end, and they reach out with white-hot vengeance to destroy the dark forces of chaos. They stand near immortal warriors, the Emperor's finest gene-crafted warriors.
If they could leave Terra and go fight, then that would be something different than just being a guardian. I mean, because that would be a lot cooler than just hanging out. And, I would want to be doing something. I would want to be out in the field somewhere rather than just home base.
Their dexterity and ability far beyond that of even ordinary Astartes, their minds powerfully refined and fortified, their education extensively studied in all matters. For they exist to not only be powerful defenders, but to serve as companions and counsel for the Emperor himself. They reach out now more proactively than ever, fighting as some of the most supremely powerful warriors that exist within the Imperium, retaining the honour that the blood of the Emperor runs through their veins. They are the golden light of the Emperor himself, his manifested spirit, and only surpassed in ability by the Primarchs and the Emperor himself. To be a Custodes is to be the pinnacle of human design. Their task of defending against the darkness may be challenging, but to stand individually as one of the most powerful and advanced forms of humanity ever created, beings of godlike strength and mental dexterity compared to your average human, bearing ornate crafted armour and weapons, and who is said to have been genetically individually crafted by the Emperor himself, there can be little dispute that the position of a Custodes is greatly revered. Rogue traders are an obvious idolised role within the Imperium of Man, where much of humanity leads assigned lives of extremely limited personal choice. Rogue traders lead lives that are entirely the opposite.
We are going to start playing some Rogue Trader, I think, soon. I think I'm going to purchase it today, which is the distant past to when you are seeing this. Mind games. That's probably going to be our next live stream thing that I do, is we'll be playing it. 130 hours is what they say for that game. 130 hours. It's insane. Looks like it's co-op if you guys have it. I know at least one of you do, because we're buddies. And you know who you are, Ben. Yeah, you gotta hit me up. We'll play it on the stream. Anyway, Rogue Trader seems cool. I don't know much about them, but I know being able to go out and have fun adventures and all that jazz, stellar. It'd probably be a great job.
Lives of exploration and adventure and self-determination. They're able to travel wherever they feel is worthwhile, dreaming and speculating for the betterment of mankind, but also for themselves. Rogue traders lead a life that many can only dream of. Successful rogue traders will also have close-knit teams of specialists around them, experts in diplomacy, exploration, and combat. These individuals, though, unlike others related through their likely noble family ties, will be well educated with a strong sense of instinct and cunning, skilled merchants, potentially pirates, and most certainly opportunistic.
Pirates.
Rogue traders are truly exceptional individuals, and it's easy to romanticize rogue traders as they rattle on through the void in their customized and potentially Xenos-adapted ships. Some rogue traders even end up feeling so disconnected from the Imperium that they end up feeling no strong ties with it, and they walk a very thin line between loyalty and heresy. The truest appeal to take on the role of a rogue trader, though, is the freedom of exploration and trade that it represents. You're not tied to a specific world, nor are you beholden to oaths of duty and service to the Emperor. You're not going to be sent out on orders back to back from one place to another, dealing with situations and entities that would be enough to destroy the minds of many ordinary citizens. As a rogue trader, you lead a difficult life, but a life where the challenges become their own rewards. Adventure, glory, and riches await the smartest and most capable of rogue traders, and for any who are able to locate the rarest of the rare lost STC templates, eternal glory in the Imperium awaits you. Now initially I was considering not to include a high administrator in the best jobs list because I considered it to be too close to a planetary governor or a noble. However, it does differ and certainly sits as one of the more cushy jobs available to individuals in the darkness of the far future. Essentially, you would take on the role of a high-ranking bureaucrat, and this is beneficial to you for multiple reasons. One being the scale of the administratum. Even as a senior staff member within its vast sub-departments would allow you to fade into a state of greyness, and this is likely one of the safest positions to occupy within the Imperium. Not being as visible and therefore open to conspirators as a noble, not being so dispensable as an ordinary pleb citizen who nobody is going to miss. You also are a vital cog in the mechanisms that keep the Imperium operating. And while you are replaceable, it's going to be in the interests of all to limit how frequently that occurs and risk bureaucratic chaos. Lastly is the ability to remain out of sight and out of mind. Even the head of the administratum at this stage can probably only make a rough estimate of the actual number of divisions that exist inside the apparatus of the administratum.
Yeah, I guess that would be good because you could pretty much make yourself almost invisible to damn near everyone if you really wanted to. You could requisition all sorts of stuff. You could essentially watch a planet burn because you just decide, hey, I don't want to send stuff to them anymore. It's not worth it. See you later. That's a lot of power. That is a lot of power you would have. Being able to have that much power and be able to pretty much make people do whatever it is you want, requisition whatever you want, as long as you didn't have anybody looking into whatever it is you were doing. Cakewalk.
So the likelihood of you being able to live by any standards a comfortable existence with few threats toward you is significantly better than most individuals in the Imperium at the top and bottom of the pile. While your life may not be as lush and luxurious as that of a noble, occupying a high-ranking position is certainly going to accommodate you with comfortable surroundings, and that coupled with the relative safety and anonymity that being a single individual in such a colossal bureaucratic system is arguably still preferable to running the constant risk of having your throat cut unceremoniously in the middle of the night by your father's sister's cousin's son. Now, a Titan Princeps. A return to a role where you get to basically enact vast scales of ruination on the enemies of man. A Titan Princeps, again, while not necessarily the most comfortable of roles, is going to be one many would imagine has its fair share of significant positives.
Yeah, being a pilot of a Titan probably has a lot of perks. If I feel like in the Horus Heresy series, one of the books that I was actually listening to, can't remember exactly what, but they were saying that it's impossible to pilot one of these things if machine spirit doesn't like you, which would be like AI or abominable intelligence. But if the machine spirit, you don't get along with them, and then you also need another person to pilot it. It's like Pacific Rim. You need multiple people to run the damn robot, and the robot may hate you. So you're pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, you're born into that as well. or at least highly trained into it as probably a child, because that's how things go for this universe. I mean, I could see it being a good, maybe not necessarily a fun one unless you like doing what these things do, which is murder everything. And how honorable that is, I don't know. But, you know, it'd probably be a good career. College day, or career day at college, high school. It's time to sign up to be a Titan class engineer. Princeps, or whatever you want to call it this time.
But still, I'm sure some of you are wondering, what is a Titan Princeps? Well, it is a senior officer who commands the world-ending scale of war machines that are known as Titans. And this is something I'll have to cover in a lot more detail later, but essentially a Princeps is a human individual with immense willpower. And this is required because they are ordered to operate a Titan, the massive war machines that tower over battlefields, tower over cities. The Princeps must mentally interface with the machine itself and be able to control the Titan's incredibly powerful machine spirit. It is rare for humans to exhibit the strength necessary, and those individuals are exceedingly rare, as low as 1 in 10 million. For this reason, you as an individual are as near to indispensable as any individual in the Imperium. You'll be heavily guarded, and if your vast war machine were to be disabled in battle, no resource would be spared to recover you. One of the very few situations where the Imperium cares significantly about an individual human life. Operating a Titan is also highly addicting. For perhaps obvious reasons, the Princeps will feel the Titan as if it were their own body. They will feel as if they themselves are this staggeringly dominating war machine of godlike power. This intense, overpowering addiction can often lead Princeps to spiral down into madness as their mind is too heavily strained and they fight against the spirit of the machine itself. Princeps do not individually operate a Titan. The task is far too difficult for one person alone, and will have a team of juniors known as Moderati who assist in other operations and coordinations required to run the Titan. A Princeps, though, is a rare gifted role to play for the Imperium, heavily immersive and symbiotic as the war engine's machine spirit learns from the Princeps and the Princeps from the previously stored memories and experiences of the Titan. It is a position few could ever imagine having the opportunity to be, designated as a commander and operator of one of the most powerful weapons the Imperium holds. To rain down prophetic fury and devastation against the enemies of man with impunity as you look down with powerful superiority upon the ant-like figures that you are crushing, rending, tearing and exterminating with fire. The fools who would stand against the might, power and irresistible force of the Imperium of man. Now, a planetary governor or lord is another position of supreme power that offers those lucky enough to hold the position lives that few could dream of. A governor is a political leader, although not elected, obviously, within the Imperium of Man, and they're also considered an imperial commander when it comes to military decisions. Similarly to other roles in either the administratum or nobility, a planetary governor is often a hereditary position. And I think it's safe to understand why somebody long ago decided that that was a good idea, and it certainly wasn't in the interests of ensuring the right person for the right job. Governors of important worlds within a system may also extend their powers as sector or even segmentum governors. This is to ensure smooth order and running of imperial systems, as the Imperium itself is far too large to be run by a more centralized system. The benefits of being a governor are that while technically you answer to the Adeptus Terra and the Lord Commander of the Imperium, you are essentially completely independent and can run your planet and sector however you deem appropriate. Quite literally, the world is your oyster. You do of course have to adhere to delivering your quotas for the Imperial tithe, but as most of your world systems are fairly entrenched and autonomous, this shouldn't be a heavy concern. If you were able to choose, which you wouldn't because the positions are hereditary, but any number of world types exist, and all would hold their own specific benefits to you as a governor. The top of the pile likely being governor of a garden or paradise planet. And yes, these are a thing, believe it or not, in the Imperium. They are worlds of staggering natural beauty, highly cultured places with massive, luxurious restaurants, dancing rooms, maybe even some form of casino for the nobility to enjoy, as well as any number of associated pleasurable activities. Use your imagination. To be a governor of such a world is just about as idealistic a role as you could hope to have. Other planets that could be enjoyable are, yes, feudal worlds, because they're fairly idyllic in one sense, simple people leading simple lives, or industrialized worlds that are not too far from the 21st century on Earth. These are a thing as well in the future. Even hive planets, because while hives for the lower human drones are an intolerably cruel existence, for those at the top of the pile it's quite a different matter. They will have access to just about every luxury you can think of when it comes to urban living. As a governor you have, as with other roles, immense power, and through this power opens up to you a lifestyle that is simply unimaginable to many Imperial citizens. Now, Imperial Guard Commissars. I wanted to include at least one position here from the Imperial Guard because despite their reputation as Operation Human Shield, there are certainly some positions and roles that could be appealing to some who want to lead a life of military service for the Imperium, crushing its enemies under the weight of Baneblade justice and dealing out furious retribution to heretics.
I want to see how he makes this seem good because if I remember right, it's not exactly great.
Imperial Guard Commissar covers various levels of ranking, from default Commissar to Lord and Commissar General. While certainly not the easiest job by any means, a Commissar is an individual with influence, significant respect and power within his regiment or PDF force. A Commissar is essentially a senior commander, empowered by the Imperium to use any means to ensure loyalty and morale of troops. And to achieve
that means killing people too, by the way. Most of these jobs kind of have that in there, but this is directly on the battlefield. If you're Commissar Yarrick, then you're a complete badass. But most other ones, I don't know.
Achieve objectives, whatever the cost. A Commissar will be feared by some, revered by others, often inspiring his troops to leap into battles and take on objectives far beyond sense and reason, and often facing down and succeeding with what appeared to be impossible odds. Commissars are for some a very appealing role because of the supremely uncompromising nature of the Commissar. They are immovable bastions of Imperial will. They will execute their own officers and sergeants and just as readily as individual guardsmen if they feel it's warranted. They're certainly not adverse to getting involved in actual combat to make sure things start moving forward and are a success. To me, I often feel that it is this which exemplifies what it means to be a Commissar, that if you want something done right, you do it yourself. This attitude is...
Well, I will say the Commissar's badass, but because they're willing to get in the trenches. However, I don't like the fact that they have to kill people that are deserters. That's a little rough. But, you know, maybe they really enjoy that kind of thing. I don't know. But they do make some, like in Space Marine 2, that Commissar, he did a badass speech. Yeah.
is what I think is most appealing as a Commissar role, to lead by brutal example and expect nothing of your guardsmen that you are not willing to do yourself. And given the significant amount of power struggles, backstabbing and hypocrisy that exists in the Imperium, the role of the Commissar is certainly refreshingly honest, and one which in its honesty is appealing as a straight, no bullshit position to play for the Imperium of Man.
That is true. So they're very, very straightforward with what they want. They want you to go fight and die for the Emperor. That's it. That's all you got to do. You either win, you die trying, and that's it. So, I mean, it is very no bullshit. So, I mean, that works out. And it probably is a good job unless you're Yarrick and you've got to try to chase down, or are being chased down by, what is his name? Gazgul Madthraka, something like that. Magthraka? I forget. But being chased down by an orc because he thinks you're friends because you fight really good. That's scary.
Imperial citizens. Okay, now hear me out on this. I know this is a bit vague, and I actually hate myself somewhat for putting in something so vague. But what I wanted to include here is that for all the nightmarish horror and disgusting waste of life that exists in the Imperium, there are also plenty of mid-level roles or planets that do not suffer the same intolerable conditions that others endure. And these lifestyles apply to many roles that you couldn't simply assign to one job. The extremes that we often discuss in the darkness of the far future are always the forefront of what is presented in our view of the Imperium, because so much of it concerns military matters or planets which serve to supply military necessities for the Imperium's forces. However, there are plenty of planets like the previously mentioned Garden or Paradise worlds where the conditions are far from nightmarish. I think that there would be few of us who wouldn't mind being, say, a gardener on a paradise world, or an inventive bartender serving their nobility, an events planner for noble feasts and events, or how about any number of roles on Earth-like industrialized planets not vastly different from our lives today, even feudal worlds with their obviously base level of technology and susceptibility to health issues, but still would lead peaceful lives, arguably idealistic in many ways. On the Hive and more Imperial headquartered planets as well, it's not all bad. There are plenty of mid or mid-senior roles of administration and command that, objectively speaking, are far from miserable and soul-destroying and even relatively comfortable. So this was quite a generalised and vague choice, so I apologise for that, but I feel it was worth noting that there are plenty of ordinary jobs that would be very preferable, even desirable by many, people who are probably leading lives of simple pleasure without the pressure and the threat of being dragged kicking and screaming from your position of power by an inquisitor who suspected that you were getting too big for your boots.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was to be expected, having some mid-tier, mid-level positions. I mean, it's really doom and gloom, right? But it can't all be doom and gloom. There has to be like a middle ground. In middle management, maybe that's the ground. Oh, shit.
Now lastly, yes, Astartes. I know this one will be debatable, and so I say debate away in the comments. I think personally though, how can an Astartes not be one of the best jobs to have in the Imperium of Man? Yes, you face horrors and hardships, but those are prevalent throughout the Imperium. So if you're going to have a life of challenges, why not do it with some style? Genetically modified superhuman soldiers, the Emperor's bulwark against the horrors of the future, godlike figures to your ordinary human citizen who would literally worship the ground you walk upon. You instill fear and submission to all those soft and lazy nobles and governors who have maybe forgotten their comfortable lives exist at the pleasure of the Emperor. It's true that Astartes, the Space Marines, serve humanity, not to rule it. Yet at the same time, in the darkest, most recent days for the Imperium, under the leadership of the Ultramarines Primarch returned now as Lord Commander of the Imperium, the Astartes maintain their role as mankind's legendary and premier fighting force. Yes, there are those who wield niche, excessive power, like the Custodes or the Grey Knights, but these specialist units are highly specific. The role of an Imperial Space Marine, each chapter with their millennia of history and unbreakable brotherhood, is one of the most appealing roles you could hope to take on. To serve the Emperor as one of his finest warriors, to destroy, purge, exterminate, and bring down vengeance upon the enemies of mankind. Powerful advanced weapons at your disposal, backed up by chapter brothers, each one an expert and fiercely loyal fighter in the name of the Emperor. There can be little finer opportunity than to serve the Emperor as one of his multi-role expert fighters who are truly the most iconic figures that exist in the Imperium of mankind. I'll finish today by saying, as per usual, thanks for enjoying, participating, and supporting.
So as far as being an Astartes, as a job, it would be, if you're a genetically enhanced super soldier, just running around on a battlefield and you've been, indoctrinated the way that they are as a child, I bet that's a damn good job. You don't even know anything else. You just, I'm just here to hunt the Xenos, the heretic, and the alien, and chaos demons, whatever. Yeah, that would be a cool job. That definitely would be a cool job. I mean, what else would there be? You can't be anything else. I shouldn't say you can't be anything else. That is probably the coolest job. It's just being an Astartes, but you have to be selected, and you have to go through some shit to even get there. So,
supporting me and the channel, guys. If you enjoyed, please tell me what you think down below. If you have an idea for the next best and worst, or perhaps just a rundown of something like most violent creatures, maybe even Worst Jobs Part 2, tell me down below. I got a lot of ideas going into this year, not only 40k, and I hope you're going to enjoy these as and when I get them up on the channel. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.
that was Luetin's 10 best jobs in the Imperium. I agree with most of it. I mean, what else are you gonna say? Being a High Lord, being middle management, living on, you know, a different planet, doing maybe like a pleasure planet, being in Astartes. Just imagine that. I mean, that's epic. You don't get any better than that. Being a Custodes. I mean, what else is there but being amazing when you're like a super genetically enhanced human of some sort? Well, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out Luetin's video. It is in the description. We have the Discord. That'll be in the description. Coffee page if you want to donate to the channel. I think that's it. We'll catch you in the next one.